We want to take a turn now. We are following breaking news in the investigation into last weekend's deadly shooting at Brown University. 3 senior law enforcement officials now confirming to NBC News that a person of interest has been identified. This significant development comes as 4 senior law enforcement officials also confirmed to NBC News that police are looking into whether the deadly shooting of an MIT professor in the Boston area is connected to the attack at Brown in Providence. That professor was shot and killed in his home in Brookline Monday night. 2 days after a shooter opened fire in an academic building at Brown, killing 2 students and injuring 9 others. Joining me now, NBC News national law enforcement and intelligence correspondent Tom Winter, as well as Jim Cavanaugh. Thanks to both of you for being here. Tom, let me start with you. What is the latest on this breaking news that you can share? What are you learning from your sources?
Yeah, sure, Kristen. Incorporating the reporting of my colleague Jonathan Daintz, law enforcement in New England, is right now looking at a possible person of interest in connection with the Brown University shooting. As NBC News reported earlier today, there's a possible connection that they're exploring and trying to determine whether or not the MIT shooting and the Brown shooting are in fact connected. So that's something that that they're definitely trying to determine at this hour. This has been a fast-moving investigation that has only accelerated in the last 18 hours. And so right now, law enforcement is in the process of doing the things they need to do to investigate a crime. And look, I want to be clear. There's been a number of individuals whose names have come up that law enforcement has felt were promising leads over the past couple of days, and then they turned out not to be true, including the taking into custody of a person of interest on Sunday. But this person of interest that they now believe could be responsible for that Brown University shooting is somebody that they're currently actively investigating, as you can imagine, running all the evidence to ground. And so this is definitely a fast-moving investigation here tonight.
Tom, do you think we'll hear from authorities by the end of the day?
Yeah, so the indication from authorities in Providence and local police in Providence is that they still do hope to have a press conference later today. But right now, the timing of that is really up in the air, and we just don't have a lot of details as far as how that might all kind of come to fruition.
And Tom, quickly, before I get to Jim Cavanaugh, talk a little bit. We've focused a lot this week on the mass shooting at Brown University, but give us a few more details, what you're learning about that shooting at MIT. Who was this professor, and what's the latest that you've heard about his killing?
Yeah, so we really have very limited details. We know this morning that some information was transmitted by law enforcement about a piece of evidence in connection with this particular death. This individual is a person who is a professor of nuclear fusion technology. That's not fission, what's typically used in a reactor or in a weapon, as well as plasma research. We're talking about some of the most brilliant research that occurs in the arena of nuclear physics, a member of MIT. So, you know, this is really something, Kristen, that is kind of befuddled authorities, and something where I think, you know, in the course of this investigation, initially they said this is something where, you know, they didn't see any evidence that tied the two together. I think over the last 24 hours, there's been a couple things that they've looked at to see whether or not the killing of Nuno Loureiro is something that they should be looking into further in connection with Brown.
All right, let me head over to Jim Cavanaugh, on NBC News law enforcement analyst. Jim, thank you for being here. Let's talk about first this new development, the fact that, according to Tom, authorities have now identified a person of interest. How significant is that, given that we are 6 days into this investigation?
Well, what happens on these cases, Kristen, is you get a whole lot of suspects that arise, or people of interest that arise, just like Tom described, just like the man that was in the hotel that had 2 handguns and maybe a 30-round magazine, and he was in the area of Brown University, and they received a tip about him, so they had to check him out. So you get a lot of people like that, and a couple of things match, 2 or 3 things match, and you got to look at it. And what they did there was most likely compared the firearms identification evidence. In other words, they looked at the lands and grooves, marks on the bullets from the victims, and compared that to the gun of the man in the hotel. And also, you know, ask him where he was when the murder happened. If he said he was at the motel, they can pull that video, and also they can look at his cell phone and see he was at the motel. So you can eliminate him. He wasn't there. It's not his gun. and he wasn't at the university at the time of the killing. That's how you eliminate them. So other people come up. Now we're talking about a person of interest maybe in the MIT case. As soon as the MIT case happened, there's no doubt that the detectives in Massachusetts were in touch with and maybe physically drove down to the Providence command post to discuss any possible connection. That would be normal police procedure. Now, could the caliber of the bullet been the same that was used on the MIT professor? We don't know, but if it was, the first thing they would do is compare that ballistically and see if there was a match. So that would be a very early thing they'd want to do. And secondly, is there video in the MIT case? We don't know that yet, Kristen, so they'd want to look at the video. And if the video looks like the guy in brown, that's something they want to follow. So they could not be connected at all, but the connections we can all see is proximity geographically, 50 miles apart, university connections, we can see that, and death by gunshot, we can see that. But one's a mass shooting, and one's a murder of an individual in his home, not in the university. So there's some differences too. So top investigators, they'll understand all that. Don't go down the rabbit hole. Don't get tunnel vision. Always operate from a foundation of facts to get to the next step. If they're linked, though, it gives you a whole lot more leads to follow and a whole lot more things to pursue. And we've caught many people over the years, bombers and killers and snipers, Kristen, because they wouldn't stop their killing or bombing or whatever, and we get more leads, more evidence, and eventually get them. So whether or not these two are linked, we'll have to wait and see what the authorities said. But I think they have their Joint Operations Center in Providence now up and spinning right, which they didn't have in the first few hours, which it's really hard to get that right. You know, you're dealing with so many things, so many victims and people injured. So, but they have it now. So they're on their game now in Providence.
Well, but Jim, let me follow up with you on that point, because big picture, does it set them back, or how much does it set them back that they had a person of interest in custody over the weekend? We were covering it on Meet the Press. Then that person was released hours later. Does that not waste precious time?
Well, if your Joint Operations Center is set up and you have commanders who are experienced at major events, major cases, they would not have been so excited to have a person like that spin up. I can tell you in lots of those big cases, I've had 10 or a dozen people on the board in front of me, and if I described any one of them to you, why they were possibly the suspect, you'd say, well, that's got to be the guy. And it turns out none of them are the guy. So if you've been around a lot, if you've investigated a lot of major cases, you understand that happens. The connections to the guy in the hotel were probably, you know, a 30-round magazine and the same caliber pistol. Okay, and he's near Brown University. Okay, well, it's not that much, really. So you got to check it out forensically and physically. I used to say to agents and detectives, Kristen, when they would bang my command desk there and say, this is the guy, I'd say, prove it's not the guy. Put him somewhere else. Find out where he really was when the bombing or the murder happened, and then we'll know it's not him. So we'll have to see what they do. But I think they're steadier now. They're in a better position now to solve the case, both cases.
Tom, let me head over to you for one final question. To that point, Jim saying they are steadier now, they are in a better position. What are you going to be watching for in these next several, what will undoubtedly be urgent hours to find this person?
A way of answering this question that's not going to get me in trouble, and I'm chuckling about it because, as you can imagine, Kristen, as you know all too well, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. Look, I'm actually not going to answer that question any further. This is such a sensitive investigation at this point. There's some pretty potentially interesting details of this case, and I just don't want to be in a position, this individual, if it turns out that it's the person that's responsible for the Brown University shooting and they're convicted, and also if they happen to be responsible for the MIT professor shooting, this is somebody that has already killed 3 individuals, and so this person, I think, can be considered dangerous at worst, and so I think that we really need to be a little bit cautious here in my reporting from here on out.
All right, Tom and Jim, thank you so much.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.